Hello guys, hope you all are doing great. Myself Sumadev, welcome to my channel. So today I will be showing you guys how you can create these amazing looking cards inside Excel. And the most interesting thing about these cards is that they don't require any complex formulas, neither do they require any VBA coding or anything in Power Query. They're very easy to make, so let's start. Now, before starting, we must understand the dataset and what we are trying to achieve here. So as you can see here, this particular dataset is the dataset of 3 different cakes which a company manufactures and the revenue which each of the cake types generate for each of the years. So our objective will be to create a drop-down list here, which will contain the years. And upon selecting any particular year from the drop-down, the cards should change automatically so that we should be able to get the data like the sales or the revenue for each of these 3 different cake types. Now, as you know already, or you may not know, so we can create this particular list or the dropdown by using the data validation. So let's see how we can create this list which I was talking about just now, which contains the years. So what I need to do is that I need to go to the data tab and then I need to click on data validation. Now before clicking on data validation, I need to make sure that the currently selected cell is this particular cell. So after selecting this cell, I go to data validation, and here I'll need to select list from this dropdown. Now the reason why I'm selecting list is because I want a drop down here to display the years. And for the source, what I'll do is that either I can go to my data sheet and select the years manually, or I can just manually type them also. But as of now, I'll just leave it like as it is, like selecting the dates from year and then click on OK. So let's see if we get the drop down. So I can see there's a drop down here. So if I select any value, so it automatically pops up. So this was my first step. Now the next step will be to create any formula here, which will give me the current year figures as well as the previous year figures in this particular column, by looking at this data set and taking the year as per this dropdown. So let's see how we can do this. So for this purpose, we will be using a function which is known as the index function. Now I'll explain briefly what the index function is also. So the index function has 3 parts which we need to specify. So first part is the array, which will be my data set from which I want to get my final output. So let's consider this entire data set. Now you will be noticing one thing here, that instead of getting the cell references, I'm getting this kind of structure or this kind of name. And that is happening because this particular data set is in a table. Then I come to the next part, which is I have to specify the row number. So row number means which row will I be looking in this particular data set. Now I know that each row corresponds with the years. And if I go here, I can see this is my year, which I will be looking for in this particular data set. So for this, what I can do is that I can use the match function. Now the match function returns like the position of a particular value in a range of cells. So the value which I will be looking for here is this particular value, 2022, coming from my dropdown. And I'll just use the F4 key to fix the dollar signs. Then the lookup array in this case will be this entire range here, where I will be looking for the value. And since it is an exact match, so I'll go with 0 and close the brackets. So this was my row number. Then I also have to specify the column position, which is where am I looking, which column will I be considering when looking at this particular table. So I know that the column corresponds with the name of the cake which is mentioned in this particular cell. Like it can be this column, or this column. So for this, again, I'll use a match function. And in this case, my lookup value will be this particular cell. My lookup array will just be the headings. You can see there's a different syntax for the headers. And then it is an exact match. I close the brackets again for the index and press enter. So now you can see that the year in which I was 2022, and the cake which I'm looking at currently is Tropical Sunset Cake. So Tropical Sunset Cake for 2022 is $150,000, which is the same as this one. Now let's confirm whether the formula is taken correctly or not. So Golden Honey Bliss for 2022, which is this one, 60,000, and finally Midnight Mocha Fantasy, $18,000, which is this one. So our formula worked correctly. Similarly, let's fill out this column also with the formulas. So there are 2 ways by which we can approach this particular column. Either I can drag this formula from here and then make the necessary changes, or I can create the formula from scratch. So let's try to drag this down and see what happens. So you can see it gives me an error. That is because when I drag the formula down, some of the cell references got changed. And when I particularly look into this formula, so I can see 2 things. First, when I was using the match function to return the row position, the data which was taken, like what I was doing is that I was taking the years which was mentioned in my cards sheet in cell B2, and then I was searching for it in this particular column. But here you can see when I drag the formula to the right, this cell reference got changed. So what I'll do is that I'll just select this cell reference here, Tropical Sunset Cake, and change this to year. You can see I get this suggestion, so I press the tab key and it changes. Now one more thing, or one more mistake which I can notice here is when I was using the match function to get the column number, so I was selecting a particular cake name and then searching it for here. So now as soon as I drag it to the right, I can see that from the cake column, it is transferred to the current year column. So I'll change this one also to particulars, just so to get my cake names, and then I'll press enter. Now here what happened is that the exact same formula got copied here, because you can see the figures are the same as the current year only. So the last thing which we want to change here is I was looking for a particular year in this data set, but since this is the previous year column, so what I'll do is that I'll just subtract 1 from the year as per the dropdown and then press enter. So now you can see I get the previous year figures 130, 60 and 22. Now let's proceed to the next column. So here what I'm required to do is that I'm required to calculate the percentage change, like current year versus previous year percentage change. Let me just rename this particular column to change percentage so that it makes more sense. So now what I am required to do is that I'm required to calculate the percentage change, which is a very simple formula, which is current year minus previous year and divided by the previous year. So you can see that when I put the data inside of a table and I refer to the cells, it becomes very easy to understand the formula as well. So this is one of the advantages of putting your data in a table and then doing the calculations. So now when we have calculated the percentage change, now we can start to create our card. So I'll just go to the cards sheet. Now before creating a card, what I personally like to do is that I like to remove these grid lines. So what I'll do is that either I can go to the view tab and click on grid lines, or there's a shortcut key Alt W V G to remove all the grid lines. Then the way to start the cards is I go to the insert tab, then I click on shapes, and here let's select a rectangle with rounded corners. I just left click and drag it around to create the shape. Then what I do is that I change the shape fill to a white fill, and I change the outline to, let's say, very light gray color so that it's just visible, so that I can put things inside of this. Now the way by which we can further proceed is I can go to insert tab, click on shapes, text box, and here I can insert a text box and write here the name of my cake. So let's start making for the first one, which is tropical sunset. So I just copy it from here, go to my cards and paste it here. You can resize it so that the entire thing fits up. Then you can just change the alignments as well so that it is centered. And since we will be inserting a graph here, so what I'll do is that I'll just expand my card a little bit so that the graph can be accommodated, and I'll increase the size a little bit. Now one thing which I can notice here when I compare this particular card, like the shape which we just created and the card which we want to create, is that here you can see that I have rounded corners on the right hand side, but on the left hand side it is flat. So what I can do is that, let's say if you insert any particular shape by mistake, you also have the option to change the shape like type. So what I can do is that I can go to the shape format. Here I can click on this drop down next to edit shape, click on change shape, and here I can navigate to this particular shape, rectangle top rounded corners. But here you can see the rounded corners are appearing in the top and the flat ones are in the bottom. So what I'll do is that I'll just flip it up, rotate it by 90 degrees, and then expand and adjust the size accordingly. Just increase this a little bit so that we have room for everything, and just decrease my zoom size a little bit. So now this one looks much more like the shape which is in here. And then we can proceed with the fonts and typography. So generally what is recommended is that whenever we create cards like this, special care has to be taken regarding the font size and font style. So it's generally advised to pick a font family which has multiple variations to it. Like here you can see this particular font is in Aptos semi-bold, and when I click on the drop down, I can see that Aptos has many different types of fonts. There's normal Aptos, Aptos black, display, light, mono, and so on. And we will get to this, how we can incorporate the different styles so as to achieve a cleaner and more professional look. So once this is done, next we will proceed to change the font style and type. So I'll select the entire text inside here, then go or navigate to Aptos because that is what I will be using here. So I select Aptos Light for the headings, which is the name of the key. Now then we can take the font size also. So here it's Aptos Light 11. So I'll just make sure that this one also is Aptos Light 11. Then what we can do is that we can insert another text box. So I'll create one here. And here what I want is I want to get the revenue for this particular key for this particular year. So whenever and I know that the revenue is in here, like the current year revenue are located beside each cake name. So what I can do is that I can just refer to that particular cell which contains my revenue. Now, interesting thing which is to be noted here is that I can't just put here equal sign and then refer to the cell. Instead of using the equal sign here, I need to go to the formula bar of this particular text box, use equals, then I go to data, and then I select the relevant cell which contains my data, and then I press enter. So now you can see I got my revenue. Now this is completely dynamic, so that when I change the year from here, the revenue also changes. Then we can adjust the font size and style for this one also. So I'll go with Aptos semi-bold, which is this one, and increase this font size a little bit. Then change the alignment as well. And let's compare it with what we have here. So Aptos semi-bold 18, same as this one. I'll just make it left aligned so that we have more room for the graph, and this one as well. So once we have these two, then our final step is to get the percentage change. So for that we can again create a text box. And here again I'll do the same thing, equals, data, I'll select the first cell which contains my percentage change and enter. I can expand this cell so that my complete data fits into this particular cell. And then I can adjust the font style and size. So here it's Aptos display 9. I'll do the same thing here as well. Aptos display, and I'll just reduce the size. Then what we can do is that we can select the shapes, go to shape format, and then remove any outline from them, so that it looks like as if the entire data is in here only, and as if they are all one like part of the same object here. Now here you will notice one thing, that when I click on this dropdown and then I just select the first year from this dropdown, I get an NA error in the text box. That is because I don't have any data prior to the year 2021. Now to resolve this, I have like the option which I can use is I can incorporate this entire formula inside an if error formula. So what I'll do is that I'll write here if error, and then I'll open my brackets. So the value which I want to display is, if everything is correct, is the formula which will be like the value which comes from this particular formula. Otherwise I want to display a 0. Then I close the brackets and enter. So now you can see I get 0 whenever the first year is selected. Now the next thing which I want to do here is that I want to get the line chart which I was having in here. Now this particular line chart is basically the trend of that particular cake, like how that particular cake has been performing for all the years which are available in this particular column. So what I can do for this is that I can simply select these two columns, go to insert, and then I can click on line chart. Let's go with a 2D line. Now here what is happening is that the series has been taken incorrectly. You can see I'm getting two series. First is the year series and second is the series for my cake. And this happened because Excel recognized that this also contains some numeric values which are relevant. But I have to tell Excel that these are not numeric values which are to be plotted into a series. Rather, these are the labels which are to be displayed in the horizontal category axis. So for this, what I can do is that I can select the chart, go to chart design, and here I can go to select data. And from here I can remove this particular series. Now, if I look carefully, I can see that I still don't have the years in my horizontal axis. So what I can do, where it says horizontal category axis labels, I can click on edit. And from here I can select this, the date range, and then click on OK. OK. So now you can see I have the chart. What I'll do is that I'll just cut it from here, Ctrl X, go to cards sheet and paste it here. Since I want only the line to be visible in this particular section, the small space here. So what I'll do is that I'll need to make some changes. So by the changes, I mean that I'll be removing most of the elements, but before that I need to do something. So let's say we don't want the grid lines. So I select the grid lines and press delete. I will not be requiring the legend also. So that also goes away. Chart title is also not required. So the one thing which I want to explain here is this chart has been created, like the axis range for this particular chart starts from 0 and goes all the way up to $300,000. But with the static data which I have in place, I can see that for tropical sunset cake, the variability is, let's say, from $130,000 all the way to $260,000. So what I'll do is that I'll incorporate that in here. So I just select the vertical axis, press Ctrl 1 to open the format axis settings. Then in the minimum bound, I'll specify the minimum value, which in my case was $130,000. And for maximum, you can see it automatically recognized $270,000. So we can cross check this once. So we have till $260,000. I can change this slightly to 260. Now the reason why I did that, so that my graph, like the variation is much more prominent when the data is included in this particular range. So that's why I prefer to change the axis, so that I can see the change over the period of time much more clearly. Then the next thing which I can do here is that I can remove these also, like the vertical axis, the horizontal axis, so that I just have the line chart, and then I can resize this chart to cover the entire chart area. Now if you notice here, I have two rectangles. One is the outer one and one is the inner one. So the inner one is the plot area and the outer one is the chart area. So what I want to do is that I just want to expand it. So I'll just expand it a little bit. Yes. Now I'll resize the entire thing. And then drag it and place it in here. Again, I'll go to format, shape outline, no outline, so that I can only see the graph. The next thing which I can do here is that I can change, like you can see it has very sharp corners. What I can do is that I can change this to a smoothened line. So I'll again select the chart, Control 1. Then I can go to the bucket icon, scroll down, and here you will find there's an option for smoothed line. So I'll click on it. So now it looks much more better. Then what I can do is that I can change the color of this particular line as well. So let's see what color is being used. So for tropical sunset, it's a green color. So what I can do is that I can go to this bucket icon. Here I can go to the line, and here I will get the option to change the outline color. So I can select this, I can select more colors, and here I can specify the hex range. So what I'll do just now is that I'll just go to this particular chart, Control 1. So this is a gradient type of fill which is being used. So I'll just copy the hex code from here, Control C. I'll close this one, go to my other sheet, change this to a gradient, remove the lines which are appearing here, insert one in between at 50%, let's say. And then here I'll go to the fill color here, more colors, and here I'll specify the hex color. I just paste the value from there and OK. So now I have the first one. Then the same thing I can repeat for the other two colors as well. the colors which are in the extreme of this particular range are the same color. So what I can do is that I can just simply copy the hex code from one of them and then paste it in here. I'll do the same thing for the other one as well. I'll just select it from here. And here what I can do is that I can change the direction in which how my the color is appearing. So I can select this one. So now you can see it gives much more of a clean look. Now when I compare this particular card with the one which I have already created, like this one, I can see that there is this icon which is appearing, and when I just change the year from the drop down, you can see the icon changes depending upon whether it was a decline or whether it was an increase from the previous year. So we need to work upon this icon. But before that, what I'll do is that I'll just make some changes with the size, shape and position of the objects so that it looks much more clean and polished. So the way by which I can create the conditional icon, which will change as per my percentage change, like if there's a positive percentage change, then it will show me a top like upward trend, and if there's a negative change, then it will show me a downward change. So for this, first thing which I'll do is that I'll just increase the row height of each of the rows, and the reason also I'll be explaining in a few moments. Then what I do is that I'll go to insert and then click on icons. So after going to icons, then here I'll need to specify which icons will I be selecting to represent the change in the data. Like if there's a positive change, what type of icon do I want it to get represented by? If there's a negative change, then which icon? And if there's no change, then which icon? So what I can do is that I can just type here increase, and you can see it shows me some relevant icons. So I can select any one of them. Let's go with this one, insert. And then what I'll do is that I'll resize this particular icon so that it just fits inside this particular cell. Then I'll repeat the same process for the other two categories also. I'll go to insert, icons. Here I'll type decrease, and let's go with this one. And again adjust the size. And make sure to place it inside of the cell. And finally I'll go with the last icon, which is no change. So I'll just search for sign, and here I can see there's a particular icon, this one, which represents no change. So I'll just insert this and resize it to fit it inside of the cell. One more thing which we can do here is that we can make sure that all of the icons which we just created are of the same size. So I can see this particular icon is of 0.5 height and width. So what I can do is that I can do the same for the others as well. Okay, looks good. So the next thing which we need to do is that we need to give a name to each of these icons. Now, since I know that this will be representing my downward trend, so I can write here down. This will be no change, so I can write here no underscore change. And this will be representing upward trend, so I can just write here up. Now, the next thing which I will be doing is that I will be creating named range for each of these cells, so that I will be referring to those named ranges later on to get the dynamic icon here, which would change as per the percentage displayed in here. So I'll just select the cells like the icons as well as the names, then go to formulas and click on create from selection. And here I will be selecting this particular option, right column, because I know that the names which I want to create for these cells is located in the right column, and then click on OK. So what this does is that now if I go to this cell, you can see in the name box, it has assigned a name to each of these. So this was the process of assigning name ranges. Now the next thing which I want to do is that I want to tell Excel that whenever the percentage change of the current year as compared to the previous year is 0, then I want to display this symbol. If the percentage change is negative, then I want to display this particular symbol. And if it is positive, then I want to display this symbol. So for this, we will be using a concept of indirect function as well as Vlookup. So let's see how we can do this. So first of all, what I'll do is that for the first icon, which is a negative icon, I'll just specify any random negative number. So let's say I specify here 3000. Then for the second icon, I know that this will be displayed only when the value is 0. So I write here 0. And for the last icon, I know that this will be displayed when the value is greater than 0. So I can specify something like 0 point, many zeros, and then a 1. Then the next thing which I'll do here is that I'll use a Vlookup function here to look for this particular value in here and then return the corresponding name or the type which is applicable to this particular cake. So equals Vlookup. I will be looking for this value and I'll be looking it in here. Make sure to use the F4 key to make this absolute. Then the column index number will be the third one, and it is an approximate match. So now you can see I get up, and up for each of the 3 rows because the percentage change is positive in each of them. If I change this to any other year, which has a negative percent like 2024, so then you can see it takes the correct one. If I change it to 2021, so here it displays no change. Then the next thing which I need to do here is that I need to create a name range for each of these cells, the one which contain the remarks. So what I'll do is that I'll select the first cell, click on Either I can directly insert a name from here, or I can click on define name. Actually, in this case, I'll have to click on define name because there's a formula which I will be using. So I'll just click on define name. And you can see that this particular remarks is for this particular cake, tropical sunset. So to remember it later on, I'll just write here the name of the cake. I'll just go with tropical_cake. And here you can see it says refers to data E2, which is this particular cell. Now here I will be using a function which is known as indirect function, so that I am able to get the picture associated with this particular name range. I'll explain how this works also. And I'll repeat the same process for these two as well. So I'll just select this one, define name, golden_cake. Now the final thing which I'll need to do is that I can just take any of the icons as per your choice. Like let's say I select this icon, then I create a copy of it, press and hold the control key and left click and drag it so that I have a copy. And in the formula bar, like when I select this particular icon, I can see there's this formula bar. Here I go and write equals and then write the name range which I just created. So since this icon is for the first cake type, so I just go with tropical cake and then press enter. So now you can see it is giving me this symbol here, because for 2021 there was no change. Now I'll just cut this from here, Ctrl X, and paste it in here, resize it a little bit so that it fits in here. And now when I change the year from this particular drop down, you can see depending upon the percentage which is mentioned here, the icon also changes. So if there is an increase as compared to the previous year, it shows me this positive icon. If there is a decrease, like in this case, it shows me a negative icon. Now this was the most complex part in this entire video, and if you are able to understand this successfully, then the remaining part of the video is very easy, where we just make some formatting changes to make the card look much more polished and professional. So the one thing which I can do here is that currently I can see these borders which are appearing besides my icon. So to remove these borders, what I can do is that I can go to the data tab, and here I can remove the grid lines. So Alt W V G, and now you can see the lines are removed. Now the next thing which we can do is that we can just proceed with the formatting changes to make it look more nice. So I'll just increase this a little bit. I'll select the different objects by pressing and holding the control key. Then I'll use the right arrow key to shift them to right. Then I'll be applying some shadows. So I just select the outermost object, which is the rounded corner shape. Press Ctrl 1 to open this formatting settings and options. Then here in the line, I change it to a white color. Then I go to shadows. By the way, these are like tried and tested. So you are like free to experiment on changing these things, but after trying a lot of times, I find that these settings work the best, so that's why I'm showing you with those settings. Then here I can see for shadow, I am using transparency of 60 and these other values, so I'll just do the same in here as well. I'll select this. Let's go with a downward shadow, 60, 100. I'll increase the blur by 10 points. Angle will be 180 degree. And distance is 7. So now you can see it gives me the nice look, 3D look. Now the next step will be to get the image which was being displayed here. Like here you can see there's an image of the cake. So let's see how we can do this. So for this, what I'll do is that I'll again go to insert, and then I'll click on shapes, and then I'll navigate to flowchart. And here you can see there's this particular icon which I will select, flowchart document, and then I'll just drag it in here. Then I'll rotate it by 90 degrees, and then I'll just position it in here. I'll remove the shape fill. I'll keep the outlines for now, just to position this correctly. Maybe we can drag this a little bit to the right. So that things are properly spaced. And if you want to see whether this is matching perfectly with the corners or not, then you can just increase the zoom, and then you can manually drag it and adjust the settings. The next thing which we can do is that now we can remove the borders once we are done with the alignment. Next thing which I can do is that I can go to shape format, shape fill, and here instead of any fill color, we will be choosing picture. Now you can either insert a picture from your file, but for now I'll just go with stock images to get the pictures of the cakes. So I just click on stock images. Here I search for cake. Then you can see this one is appearing. So I just select the first one and then click on insert. It takes some time to load the picture. And now you can see I get the image of the cake. You can see there's a slight white border which is appearing. So what I'll do is that I'll select the image and just resize the borders so that they are not visible. Yes, looks much perfect. Then what I'll do is that I'll just go to my other sheet which has the shadow like configurations. So I'll just select the image from here. Again, this is using a shadow 60, 100, 790 and 2. So I'll just replicate the same in this particular image as well. So I'll go with let's say this one. So it gives me the downward shadow, which is the same as this one here. Then I can change the settings a bit. So I can select this one, 7 points, 90 and 2. So I'll just increase this 7, 90 and 2. So now you can see that we got this nice looking card, which is completely dynamic, such that when we change the year from the drop down, the icons also change it. Now after doing all the things, the final thing which we must do is that we must select all the shapes and objects which we inserted in here. So I'll just press and hold the control key and select everything. And then I'll go to picture format, group, and then I'll group them. So this grouping makes them and treats them as one single unit. So for the subsequent cards, like for these two cakes, what I can do is that I can press and hold my control key, left click and drag it, so that I get a nice copy. And then I can change the values from here. Like instead of this name, I can just take this particular name. Then I'll change the amount also. It's referring to B2. So I'll make it B3. Then I'll change the formatting also of this one. I can use the format painter. But it's not working because this object is grouped. So I'll just manually change it from here. Aptos semi-bold and 18. And this will be Aptos display. 9. Then what I can do, final step is to change my icon also. So currently you can see it's referring to the named range tropical cake, but the one which I want is golden honey bliss. So I'll just delete it from here, type here golden and enter. I believe both of them are the same percentage, so that's why they are showing the same trend. I can just navigate to see if they're working. So 18.75, yes, that's correct. Then finally you can change the picture of the cake as well. You can just select this particular shape, then go to picture format, and then here you can change picture. If you want, you can change the font as well, font color. Like we can make this deep blue. We can change the chart color as well, bluish tint. And I'll just increase the lightness. In this way, you can create multiple cards. Hope you guys liked the video. Please let me know down in the comment section if there's anything you would like to know more about this topic.